Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to another Indie Game Friday, where each week I take a look at a different independent computer role-playing game, and often stretch the definition of RPG to its breaking point. This week we have Shotgun Legend, which is a retro-inspired Zelda-like game developed by Jonathan Tyndall and published by Wastebasket Games. It was released on Steam on January 15th, 2018. Now when I say Shotgun Legend is a Zelda-like, I mean just that. In terms of both graphics and gameplay, it's heavily inspired by the 8-bit Legend of Zelda of the NES days, which isn't an RPG, but it's got more RPG elements than a more simple adventure game, so hey, it may appeal to some people. And hey, at least it's not another RPG Maker game, right? In terms of plot, you play the part of Eugene, who is just out getting a new rim for his truck, when a portal opens and sweeps him through to a strange land. The rim shatters en route, and he must gather the pieces to return home. Along the way, he's armed with his trusty shotgun, and whatever other gadgets he can pick up. Gameplay itself starts with the selection of a difficulty level, and then consists of wandering around from screen to screen. Eugene has health, represented by hearts, as well as a primary shotgun attack. There's also a coin counter, which is increased by finding coins, and a key counter, which is increased by, you guessed it, finding keys. During exploration, other items may be picked up as well, and these are accessible via the inventory subscreen. Items come in two types: passive items that grant a passive ability, and active items, which occupy the second action slot and usually expend some sort of resource. Some of the passive items you get can include candles to increase underground viewing distance, and a compass to show where you are on the overworld map, while active items include sub-weapons such as sticks of dynamite or a crossbow. While these secondary objects are found in either shops or in dungeons or other places on the world map, additional items may be found that upgrade your character in other ways. Certain objects may increase the ammo capacity of another active item, while you may also encounter big hearts that increase your maximum hearts by 1. There are also pellet upgrades that upgrade your main attack by adding another pellet. Now the main attack is one of the most interesting departures from the classic Zelda gameplay, because rather than a single sword slash, you simply have a shotgun. There's unlimited ammunition for it, and the main limiting factor is the reload time between shots. When shot, it scatters a number of pellets randomly in a cone before the character. Each pellet does a certain amount of damage when it strikes something. Now this has a few side effects in terms of overall gameplay. First is the reload time, that makes maneuvering a bit more important than it would be if your main weapon were melee, because you're going to want to stay out of counterattack range on those enemies that can do it. Second is the scatter pattern itself. Since the shot spreads out in a cone, a creature which is near or large enough to intercept a larger number of the shot pellets will take far more damage than one which is far away and only gets grazed by one pellet. Since upgrades to the main weapon seem to produce more pellets, this not only increases the overall damage taken by a direct blast, but also makes it easier to hit further away targets with stray pellets. This kind of combines to encourage a sort of medium to close range attack, even though the reload time would otherwise encourage you to keep your distance. During play, navigation moves from screen to screen, as it would in the original Legend of Zelda, with the entire world and then each dungeon set up on its own grid. Each screen has a set number of monsters, and once you defeat them, they remain defeated for a certain time. However, returning to a screen after ranging far enough afield will have the enemies all reappear. There are actually a fairly decent number of enemy types, which grow gradually more powerful the further away from the starting area you get, and they use a wide variety of different movement patterns and attack types, which can provide a bit of variety in terms of how certain areas need to be approached. Obstacles, both on the overworld and in dungeons, may limit access to places until the appropriate item to bypass them is found, which can limit progression in much the same way that a similar mechanic did in the Zelda series. For instance, some walls don't open until shot with a crossbow bolt, and some blocks must be detonated with dynamite. Aside from the overworld, there are dungeons, and each one has an associated difficulty level. Although not all dungeons must be done in the right order, it is recommended that you do it that way simply because there are some portions of some dungeons that may be completely inaccessible until certain items are found in prior dungeons. Like the overworld maps, Dungeons are composed of one-screen rooms, although in this case they are linked only in a particular pattern, and not every square on the map needs to contain something. Each room may be filled with enemies, objects, or traps, and each dungeon contains an item, either active or passive, and a boss, which may be defeated for a heart upgrade. At the end of each of the main dungeons is also a piece of Eugene's truck rim. Throughout the game, the story is revealed through notes that you may find sitting around. The plot is admittedly pretty silly, but it fits the overall theme pretty well. I'm not sure if I actually like this method of revealing plot elements though. It fits for a more advanced game and does well in terms of explaining what's going on, but the style that the rest of the game seems to be going for just seems better suited for less exposition overall. In terms of gameplay, I actually found it to be very good. Controller support, at least for me, was quite well handled, and it felt every bit like playing one of the old 8-bit classics. The music is a little bit forgettable and can be a bit repetitive even for the style that it's trying to mimic, and the graphics do a decent job of portraying the colorful style of old, although they may seem a bit primitive even by 8-bit standards. It's more of an adventure game than an RPG, I'll give it that, in the style of the old Zelda games, but it is a pretty solid example of those, and I'm definitely covered more simplistic RPGs that are considered full RPGs in the past. The difficulty is at a decent level, not quite as hard as some of the old 8-bit classics, but that's a good thing, and if you're looking for more difficulty, you can always up the difficulty level. I'm not sure I can recommend it overall at the full price for everyone, but if you can pick it up on sale, it's not a bad little game. At least for those who like the old Zelda style of gameplay and the 8-bit aesthetic. If you can't stand that sort of thing, however, then the imperfect presentation is probably only going to make things a little bit less bearable for you. So yeah, in the end, I'll have to leave it as recommended, but for a niche of audience. And I'll wrap it up here. This has been the RPG Crawler with Indie Game Friday Shotgun Legend. I'll put a link to where you can get it in the description below. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment if you got any feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content, both tabletop and computer. Until next time, take care and goodbye.